Go on.
Given recent events with the coronavirus and the Black Lives Matter movement, in my house, as in many other households, I'm sure, we've been having a lot of discussions about respect, kindness, compassion, and solidarity. So I thought I would talk to you today about Jacinda Ardern, the Prime Minister of New Zealand, a remarkable leader of a small country of almost 5 million people, who I believe embraces all of these qualities. Sadly, it's not often that kindness is found in politics. Kindness, along with being smiley and nice, appears to some people to be synonymous with weakness. Clear evidence that someone is a bit soft. Jacinda was born in Hamilton on the North Island and moved to 2 different rural districts as a child. Her father was a police officer and her mother was a catering assistant in a school. Jacinda went to the local state school, and it was during her childhood in a small, majority Maori town that she first encountered poverty, violence, and social injustice. She recalls, for example, seeing children with no shoes on and nothing to eat for lunch. Now, Jacinda is from a religious family, and in fact, she grew up as a Mormon. In her 20s, she moved to Wellington, and later she shared a flat with 3 gay friends. And it was at this time that the clash between her Mormon values and gay rights led her to leave the church, and she now considers herself to be agnostic. But it was her keen sense of injustice that led her to join the Labour Party at the age of 17. And she worked as a member of staff for Prime Minister Helen Clark, who was the second woman to hold New Zealand's highest office, and indeed Ardern's political hero and mentor. So, as I've just made apparent, Jacinda Ardern is in fact not the first woman to be elected Prime Minister of New Zealand, but rather the third, in a country which was the first in the world to grant women the vote in 1893. Not only was Jacinda Ardern young when she took up office at the age of 37, but she was also pregnant. And she became the second head of government in the world to give birth whilst holding the highest office of the land, whilst in her position as the Prime Minister. Interestingly, the first was Benazir Bhutto, who gave birth to a daughter in 1990 when she was the Prime Minister of Pakistan. Jacinda Ardern also gave birth to a little girl, but unlike Benazir Bhutto, who went back to work the very next day after giving birth, Jacinda took 6 weeks maternity leave, handing over duties to her deputy. She also took her 3-month-old daughter with her to the UN, making history as the first female world leader to bring an infant to the United Nations General Assembly meeting in New York. She explained matter-of-factly that she was breastfeeding her daughter, which meant that her baby had to come with her on a 6-day trip. And it's this pragmatic, natural approach which has gained her much popularity among women. And indeed, she's become something of a feminist icon. However, she's very realistic about the juggle of parenting and her job, and is open and honest about the fact that her partner, Clark, is the main caregiver. However, what I personally find most inspirational about Jacinda Ardern is how she has managed 3 major challenges during her first term in office. Firstly, on the 15th of March 2019, the worst mass killing in her country's modern history took place, the Christchurch massacre. 51 Muslims were fatally shot in 2 mosques by a self-proclaimed white supremacist. And her reaction was immediately to call it a terrorist attack, because that's what it was, and to claim they are us and we are them, in a real sign of unity throughout the whole country. She also refused to mention the perpetrator's name, to deny him the attention he was seeking. And when Donald Trump asked her what his country could do to help, she replied, "Show some sympathy and love for all Muslim communities." Her calm, compassionate, empathetic response was then followed by resolve to change the gun laws in her country. And she succeeded in doing this less than a month later, banning most semi-automatic weapons, a measure which was supported by all but one of the Parliament's 120 lawmakers or members of Parliament. The second challenge came in December 2019, when there was a volcanic eruption on White Island, which is one of New Zealand's 600 small islands. During this volcanic eruption, 21 tourists were killed. Again, Jacinda's calm and compassionate response were once again hailed in the way that she supported first responders and the investigations which have been launched into the disaster, including whether proper risk assessments were carried out before the tour groups visited the island. Thirdly, and most recently, her response to the coronavirus has been internationally praised. She acted decisively, seizing the window to take action to close the borders and imposing some of the strictest lockdown measures in the world. In New Zealand, the virus peaked at 1,504 cases. And on the 8th of June, she announced, to applause, that they had managed to eradicate it completely. The borders will remain closed, but otherwise life for New Zealanders has returned to normal. In my view, her human reaction to these events is something many other leaders around the world are greatly lacking. And it's no wonder that she's rated the most popular Prime Minister of New Zealand in a century. Given the uncertainties that lie ahead for all of us, kindness and compassion are qualities which we're going to need and which we must look for in our leaders if we are to create a better world. Thank you.